So thank you guys for being here today. My name is Josh Taylor. I use he, him pronouns. We are grateful to see everyone here. Kaylin, I see you in the chat there, so thanks so much. Good morning, everyone. Um, Taylor is our grad assistant who you've been in communication with. Taylor, are there any announcements, things that we need to cover before we jump into the material?
Yeah, I was just going to remind everyone that if you attend 4 or more of these seminars, you will be able to receive a certificate. And then if you go to 5 or more seminars, then you will be able to get a certificate and a medal. And then a reminder that the next Leadership Development Series seminar is going to be April 6th.
That's wonderful, Taylor. Thank you so much. Also, Taylor, because I'm sharing my screen, I really won't be able to see the chat very well. So please feel free to interrupt me at any point if there are questions in the chat that we should address. So thank you so much for that. For everyone who is involved here, again, thank you for being here. So the Center for Ethical Leadership is the office that puts on these leadership development seminars. The Center for Ethical Leadership is, we are here to do everything we can to develop life-giving community leaders on our campus. And so we are extremely grateful for you being here, but we're also excited to be able to offer you whatever assistance that we can in your own leadership development. So if there are things or ways in which we can serve you, please let us know. And you can find the website, just a quick Google search for OK State and then Center for Ethical Leadership. And we will be happy to respond to you and to help in any way that we can. Like Taylor said, let's see, this is what Taylor was just talking about. And then as a recap, so this year, this will be the 5th seminar. So we did 3 last semester, and this is our second one this semester. We started off with this idea of like, why are stories important, and especially why are stories important for leadership? Then we moved into this idea of bias and how important it is in leadership to create equitable and inclusive opportunities for all people. And so we talked about that as like a table. So leaders are often gatekeepers and gatekeepers to opportunity. So it's important for leadership to have these equitable opportunities. And then the end of last semester, which was very appropriate, going into finals week, and especially finals week in the middle of a global pandemic, this idea of self-care for leaders and how important it is for leaders to take care of themselves and also to set a culture of taking care of others. Then after that, we looked this last month at motivation. So learning how to motivate ourselves and others and how important this skill is. So in that talk on motivation, there were 3 intrinsic factors that we said that were really the key to motivation. And that was autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So autonomy means freedom. And so that's something that really motivates people, is having freedom of choice. Then mastery, or this ability to learn new things, get better at things, to master a skill, that's something that can motivate us. And then we also talked about how purpose is a great motivator. And that's where we're going to be focusing today. So today we talked about this finding your leadership purpose. And so that's really where we're going to be focused for this talk. So purpose, what is purpose? And as I talk here for a second, feel free to answer that question in the chat. Sometimes it's helpful for us to articulate our own ideas, and Zoom is not always the easiest way to do that. But maybe by trying to write out in the chat, that can be helpful for you. So this idea of what is purpose. Again, just to talk while we're seeing the definitions come in the chat. We do believe that this is a great motivating factor for people. So when you're trying to find your leadership purpose, this is something that will have a huge impact in terms of the people that you are leading. If they can connect to a purpose, that's one way to really motivate yourself and to motivate other people. I am not sure that we've had anything come into the chat yet. Am I correct there, Taylor?
No, we have not.
Okay. Oh, there's one, I think. What drives you? Reason, motivation. Okay. As those come in, Taylor, again, feel free to read those out at any point. So purpose, at least in my perspective, purpose is a mission, an overarching direction. It's a reason why something is done. And this purpose is, I feel like, an incredibly important aspect for us to understand in ourselves. I would say that purpose drives us to act. It drives us to seek out new answers, or maybe even to start asking the question in the first place. Also, purpose is something that drives us to find solutions. So I'll tell a short story, short personal story here, and we can see about purpose from that. So I think I'm not sure how that got circled just now, but that is exciting. Did that get circled on your screen, Taylor?
Yes.
Oh, fun. Okay. So purpose is what drives us to act, to seek, or to find solutions. Whenever I was in high school, I was selected for a scholarship through Parade magazine. And as a group of high school students, it was a bunch of high school seniors basically who went to Ireland. And we were doing a journalism project where we were comparing and contrasting the experience of seniors in high school between the United States and Ireland. So it was a really cool project. While we were there, I became good friends with about 5 or 6 different guys, and this was from all over the United States. So the group as a whole was probably only about 25 or 30 people, but I became friends with these 5 or 6 different guys. And we had a very clear purpose throughout our trip. We really, really wanted an authentic kilt. We thought that would be fun to find, not like a touristy store, but like a local shop where we could buy a kilt. So we were in Blarney, and we had done the touristy thing just a few minutes before. We kissed the Blarney Stone, which is supposed to give you good luck. And it's actually a pretty harrowing experience. Like, you're on top of this castle and you have to lay down on this like platform that has wheels, and they like wheel you out to kiss the stone. And now that we're in a pandemic, I'm just thinking that was a horrible idea, but at the time it was great. So then after that, this group of guys, we had some free time, and so we go into the village to find kilts. That was our purpose. And so we go in, and the shop owner immediately knows that we are Americans and doesn't really like us too much. And so we're trying to find kilts. We start trying on some things, and they are all like really short and really tight on us. And so I'm in this store trying it on, and all of us have these on that clearly don't fit us. And so I walk up to one of the store owners. Unfortunately, I do walk up to the store owner while wearing this. But I walk up to the store owner and I explain that our purpose here is we really want to find an authentic Irish kilt that we can buy. And I was just wondering if she had larger sizes than this. We were thinking more of like the long flowy thing. She asks me, I thought like a pretty simple question, but the question was, so you want a kilt? I said, well, yeah, kilt. She goes, from Ireland. Well, yes, we're here. She goes, kilts are from Scotland, right? And so at that point, I realized that I'd missed that big point in Braveheart, the movie, that they were all from Scotland, not from Ireland. And so I kind of look at myself and then at my friends, and then look back at the store owner, and I say, so if these aren't kilts, and she goes, you're just trying on dresses or skirts. Okay, great. And so we, very embarrassed, get out of the store as fast as we can, realizing that while we had a very good purpose, or at least we thought we had, maybe it wasn't a very well researched purpose. And so, similar to our story in Ireland, our purpose is going to drive us to do something. Our purpose probably should have driven us to ask a few more questions, before trying to find a solution. Unfortunately, we were not going to Scotland, so none of us got kilts. Um, or any other one that I know of. So that is a little bit about purpose. I think it's good to realize that in life, um, we usually don't just have one purpose. I think it's an oversimplification to say that all of our life is about one thing. So sometimes the details of our purpose will change. We often have smaller purposes that have specific tasks. And so when you're looking at your own life right now, you probably have some purposes that are rather large, and you may have some other things though that are pretty small. If we're looking at purposes, if we're looking at purposes like a mission or a reason why we're doing something or an overall direction, you might have multiple purposes in your life right now. In fact, I would argue that most of us do. As students, your purpose is to learn as much of the material as you can to become subject matter experts in your field. Um, you could also say that your purpose is to get good enough grades to end up with a degree and graduate. I would hope, though, that your purpose is more about the material that you were learning than the paper that you were getting. But those things can go hand in hand. So I think that it is good, though, to realize it's not just that you're going to have one purpose. However, many people often see an overarching purpose. The longer that you live, the more experiences that you have, you can kind of tie together a theme that runs throughout different times in your life, different experiences that you've had, maybe different positions, jobs, careers that you get into. You might even at this point be seeing themes of purpose with the type of degree that you've chosen, with the study groups that you're in, or the clubs and organizations that you get involved with. So it is very possible to find one of those overarching themes. So really, there, just to summarize, it is, I think, a reduction to say that you only have one purpose in life. You are going to have multiple purposes, but I also think that it's good to see that there are probably overarching themes. So to give you an example of this in my own experiences, before coming to Oklahoma State University, I was a high school English and leadership teacher for 10 years. So that was kind of my first career. In that career, I taught an ELA as English language arts. So I taught these skills to students, but also there were often these life themes or social justice themes that would come out in my classrooms. So we would read books like To Kill a Mockingbird or Our Eyes Were Watching God. Or we read Frederick Douglass's What to the Slave is the 4th of July, or a piece from Langston Hughes, one of his poems. And in these texts, there would be these themes of social justice, of trying to create a better, more equitable and inclusive world. And so yes, I was teaching them how to write complete sentences and essays and talking about research design. Absolutely, I was teaching those things. But I would say that many students walked out of my classroom with a broader understanding of what it means to be inclusive and social justice. So though that's a theme that I can see there. At the same time, I also was a coach. So I would coach junior high and high school football and baseball. And often we would construct practices and drills to make sure that we were building teamwork, that there was a real focus on making sure that everyone on the team had something that can contribute. And so for the team to be successful, everyone was going to have to make that contribution. And so I already could see a theme as a teacher and as a coach that I tended to have kind of the same purpose in these groups that I was leading. And that even if there were smaller purposes that we had to accomplish, things like how to write an essay or learning how to hit a baseball, but there were also these bigger themes that kind of carried through. Once I got to OSU, and this was a couple of years ago, so my work right now is that I work with student leaders trying to create, trying to train and develop lifelong community leaders. and hoping to give every student at Oklahoma State meaningful and positive leadership development. And so I get to work with these students, find their leadership purpose like we're doing today, or to give skills that make us better community or community leaders, to make our communities better. And so I start to see that there's a theme there as well. That this last weekend, actually, we had a group of about 75 Oklahoma State student leaders who were putting on a conference for our high school students. And so in that conference, these student leaders were training high school students in how to become better, more inclusive leaders. And much of the weekend was about opening your eyes to the people around you and recognizing the talent and the skills that they have, and then finding ways to get them involved in leadership at your high school. See, again, like these same themes keep coming up for me. There are overarching themes for my own life in mentoring, leading, and coaching. I just always seem to find myself developing student leaders. Even when I was a teacher, I would frequently be in charge of student council or other leadership things. And that my specific focus, even in developing student leaders, had a theme, this overarching theme of like social justice, being thoughtful and inclusive, of being kind and caring, genuine leaders. So I can see in my own life these overarching purposes. So I think that's going to be really important for us as we're talking about finding our own purpose in leadership, to see if we can start to articulate what some of those overarching purposes might be. So in just a couple minutes, as long as I can work the technology, we are going to break up into smaller breakout rooms, where we'll have 5 or 10 minutes or so for everyone. And actually, Taylor, while I'm talking, is that something that you have access to do? If not, just let me know and I'll do it in a second. But we want you to be in these breakout rooms discussing how maybe some of the smaller purposes that you can see in your life, and then maybe find some connection points of what maybe those larger overarching purposes might be. So again, for me, those smaller purposes of teaching English, of coaching, of now teaching leadership, but then that overarching theme of trying to train leaders to be a positive influence in their community. That's kind of that overarching theme that I would see in my own work. So we're going to break you up into these breakout groups. Taylor, any luck there?
I don't think so.
No worries. So I think I have that. And then, yeah, so we'll get started with this. Go ahead and introduce yourself in your rooms and then start talking about this purpose and whether you can start to make some connections for an overarching purpose. Again, you'll have about let's say 5 or 6 minutes, and that's where you'll come back to this room right afterward. Okay, good luck, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful time meeting some people in just a moment. Taylor, if possible for you to stay in this room, that would be great.
Yes, I didn't let it take me.
I'm going to move this one student. That's good. I have a little sheet here where I'm able to see. Everybody has, it looks like at least 3 that are, at least 2 that are active in every group.
Oh, good.
Not sure. So for those who are watching the recording, we probably want to pause this part because you're not going to have the opportunity to be in your small group. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that.
Okay, so if you're watching this virtually, the code word is Oklahoma. And so you need to email me and put Oklahoma into the email to let me know that you have watched the seminar.
We'll wait just a couple seconds to make sure everyone gets back from the breakout rooms. Okay, I believe now that everyone is back from our breakout rooms. We'll go ahead and continue. Okay, so now that you've found, or maybe at least just started finding your purpose in leadership, or maybe some of those overarching themes, the big step now is that we have to get other people involved. So you finding your purpose, that's not leadership. That's just you understanding yourself better. And that self-reflection is a crucial element to leadership. But if we're going to lead others, that means that we have to get them involved with our purpose. And so this is one of those things where I would I guess say it as we need others to share in our purpose. So that's what leadership. That's like that next step for leadership. So I think for us to do that, this is where storytelling comes in. We have to be able to tell our story of purpose. And so this means that we have to craft language around our purpose, and specifically to craft language so that there's room to share our purpose with others, or that there's room for us to interact and engage with us in our purpose. And this is a huge element because so many times we find a purpose, but there's really no space for anyone else. So for us to lead, this is really our next steps. So there is a book that I feel like is very, very helpful with this. It's by an author named Simon Sinek. If you like TED Talks, he also has a really great TED Talk on this topic. But Sinek, his book, Start With Why. I feel like this is exactly how we can learn how to tell our story in a way so that it invites others to share our purpose with us. And that's really this element of leadership. I do believe that storytelling is one of the best ways for us to lead, to get other people involved. And by storytelling, I really don't mean coming up with some type of fictitious story. I really don't even mean telling anecdotes. Instead, we're talking about the way in which you communicate your purpose to others. That's the story that you tell. And so with our purpose, some things that I think are important for us to think about would be why this goal, why this way, and why should others follow? Cynic is going to argue that the best way for us to tell our story is to start with why. So why is it that you're leading? Why do you even want to lead? The answer to that question is crucial. For those of you who are Hamilton fans, that's kind of the question that juxtaposes the two main characters in the story, whether you're Alexander Hamilton or you're Aaron Burr. For those who are maybe a little bit unfamiliar with it, but Aaron Burr says over and over again that he wants to have power, but the only reason he wants to have power is because he wants to be, and this is one of the name of the songs, but he wants to be in the room where it happens. Like that's as deep as it gets for him. He wants to have power. He wants to lead, and the why is so that he can have power so he can lead. Hamilton, on the other hand, has a real like conviction of purpose that he wants to see this young nation have success, and he thinks that the best way to ensure that is through financial success. Um, that's two of their positions, but overall, there's a huge difference between the why that they have. I think it's important for us to know why is it that we want to lead. Is it so people will look at us and we can have attention, or do we have some deeper purpose? Is there a way that we can create a better community through that leadership? Okay, so this idea of starting with why, I want to go ahead and flesh out a little bit more for us. And so again, one of the best ways I know to do this is through my own experiences. So telling the story of why, these are the, I guess, the pattern I would suggest, which is to make sure that there's a clear why. So what is the purpose? To communicate the why, not the what. And that again is a crucial element. And then finally, to tell a story that has space for others to be involved. So if you're trying to lead in this manner through storytelling and creating a why, these are the 3 steps. So I can go ahead and tell you a little bit about Stillwater Makes a Change. SMAC, you see the logo down there below. In my previous job leading at the high school, I used to supervise a student-run philanthropy week that was called SMAC, where Stillwater Makes a Change. And this philanthropy campaign, it would raise money for local nonprofits. And so every year the students would pick a local charity and they would raise money and awareness for that charity. They would hold a pageant for senior guys, which basically was an excuse for them just to be silly. They had dine-in nights at local restaurants where they would get a percentage of the proceeds. They would hold dances. They would even sell candy at Valentine's Day. And then they had one event where they would throw a gala for for the community. They also had like a color run or a 5K. And so they would hold event after event all year long. Okay, so I told you this story of SMAC. How did I do in following my own guidelines? Anywhere in there, did I talk about why SMAC happens? Whenever I was communicating about these events, was that a why or was that a what? And then as we're telling that story, was there space for you to become involved in it? I did a very poor job of communicating the overall purpose. So if we're talking about making sure that there's a clear why, I'm not so sure that anywhere in there I talked about why. And then whenever we're talking about when I was trying to explain SMAC, all I did was tell you what it did. At no point did I explain why. And then there was no real opportunity for you to become involved in that work. So this is actually what the reason why I learned this information was because I watched students over and over again get asked, what is SMAC? And they were being asked by, sometimes it was on like TV because they were being interviewed for statewide news. Or sometimes it was on the radio and the DJ or the host would be asking them a question. And every single time they would launch into like the date and time of their events. And I realized that it wasn't connecting with people. They weren't really telling a story that was a compelling story. And so there was a disconnect between their passion and then the way in which they were expressing or telling this story. So the way they were telling the story, there was no space for anyone else to get involved, and no one even knew. There's just a disconnect, I guess, in purpose or in like an emotional attachment. So let me try again and see if I can do a little bit better. So SMAC is a student-led philanthropy campaign, and it actually gets our entire Stillwater community involved in raising money and awareness for local nonprofits. So every year, almost every single high school student gets involved in one way or another. So it's right around 900 students a year whenever I was there who were involved with this. And the reason why is because they really want to make a difference. these high school students care deeply about their community, and they see that their community has given so much to them that they want to give back. And so they actually have found this way to invite our whole community into an opportunity to give back to some of the local nonprofits that really make this place very, very special. I believe that young people have this passion for improving our communities. They really do want to make a change. They care so deeply about helping other people. So last year, they helped rebuild a park so that it was accessible to students with disabilities. And so it was accessible to grandparents. So grandparents playing with their kids could actually go and play on the playground. Um, they also, let's see, one year they helped buy a building for Empower, which gets jobs for special needs adults. And then they also even helped Our Daily Bread in the first few years that it was open. Our Daily Bread feeds 1,000 families a month at least. So these 900 students, they're getting involved in one way or another because they really want to make a difference. So the why for SMAC is because they care so deeply and they actually want everyone else to get involved too. So people in the community can join, they can be involved through a lot of the events that they hold. Um, and it's in that way that the entire community is able to then make a change. And overall, the real purpose is just to make our community better. So that's a different story than what I told the first time. That had space for all of us to step in and get involved if we also share that purpose. It also communicated a very, very clear why. Why this exists? Well, because students want to make their community better. I also think that that's a why that is easily translatable to a broad audience. Almost everyone you talk to would agree that it's a good thing to try and make the world a better place. And so if you can communicate your why in a way that shares a common good with so many others, then you're going to have a broader audience to then pull from in your leadership. So, and whether it was a clear why or not, I guess that's up to my own communication skills. Hopefully it was clear enough as for why these students are involved in it. So whenever you are telling your story, and again, we're not talking about just anecdotes, we're not talking about some type of fictitious story that you tell. When you're the fictitious story that you create, instead, when we're talking about you leading through telling your story, it's very much telling your why. What are you passionate about? How does that connect to the purpose that you have at hand? But make sure there's a clear why. Then this is a hard thing, but make sure that you're always communicating the why and not just the what. At some point, you're going to have to say what, because people are going to need to have clear instructions. But you need to start with why. When people can buy into a purpose, this goes back to last seminar, when they can buy into a purpose, they will be far more motivated. So find the why that you can communicate that connects to a broad audience. And that's that last step. Make sure that the story that you're telling has space for others. If you do these three things, you will be able to lead by finding purpose. You'll be able to lead through communicating that purpose through story. You'll find that the people that you are leading are more motivated. You'll even find that you are more motivated because instead of just a to-do list of tasks, you now have a purpose behind those tasks. And purpose is, again, one of the major driving forces that we see. At this point, that is everything that we have to share with you. If there are any questions, please put those in the chat. We are, again, so happy that we're able to share these things with you. Sometimes it's difficult, especially through Zoom, to be able to process some of this. So it will take some time for you to start to discover the why. I would really encourage you, as one of the main takeaways, start to notice when you're just communicating what and not why. I think that is a huge step that we can take, not just the dates and times of events, but why we're doing them. Are there any questions that we can help you with? Any questions that we can answer? Taylor, is there anything in the chat there?
Yes. Someone asked a question, I think, about the number 2 point about communicate the why, not the what.
Okay. You have this specific question?
It says what mean community and why.
Okay. Um, so I think the question that you're asking about community, like what is a community? Um, and so the community would be just a group of people that is around you. I define my community in a lot of different ways depending on my setting. So my community could be family and friends. My community could be the classes I teach. My community could be Stillwater, Oklahoma, United States, or the world. So it depends on your setting in terms of exactly what we mean by community, but basically a group of people. How do you define that? And if you were asking there on what does it mean to communicate those things, I feel like communicating can be I mean, sometimes that's verbal, but a lot of times that we communicate through the schedules that we set and a lot of the other details around our lives. So I think that we probably need to think broadly about that word communicate. Hope that answered your question. If not, again, please let us know. Taylor, is there anything else? Again, we're so grateful for you. We hope you have a great rest of your day. And if there's anything that we can ever do to support your leadership development, please reach out, let us know. It is absolutely our passion and our why is to make you the best community leaders that we can possibly make. So thank you so much. We hope you have a great day. Bye.